Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Mari. I'm one of the librarians at the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine, and I'm here today to read The Dragon Thief, the sequel to Dragons in a Bag, which you might remember ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. This book is written by Zetta Elliott, and it's illustrated by Geneva B and published by Random House. We're going to pick up right pretty much where we left off after Kavita took one of the dragons from Jackson. Chapter 1. Kavita. Thief! The word whistles through the air and pricks the back of my neck. I turn to find Auntie's black eyes fixed on me. She was snoring loudly when I crept into her room just a moment ago. That gave me the courage to pull a chair over to the mountain of boxes and stuffed plastic bags that she keeps in the corner. At the very top of the mound of junk is a wired bird cage that's shaped sort of like the Taj Mahal. I need it, and I need it now. I inch up on my tippy toes and I reach for the bird cage. My other hand sinks into the soft, squishy contents of a yellow plastic bag that's wedged between two boxes. I don't know what's inside of the bag, and I don't care. Mommy would never let me keep my room like this, but no one ever criticizes Auntie. Papa won't allow it. She's the oldest person in our family and spends every day buried away under the heavy, colorful quilt that covers her bed. Sometimes she hums to herself and stares out the window. Other times she watches game shows on a little black and white TV that sits near her bed. Now I see her pointing a wrinkled brown finger at me. Thief! She says it louder this time. I feel my cheeks burn with shame. No, Auntie, By pressing my hand deeper into the squishy plastic bag, I manage to steady myself and turn all the way around to face her. I just need to borrow... Whoa! I was so close to reaching my prize. But then I lose my balance. I fall off the chair, bounce off the foot of the bed, and land on the floor with a thud. My fall brings down an avalanche of boxes, and so I cover my head with my hands. When I open my eyes, the empty birdcage is rolling on its side next to me. Auntie makes a strange sound without opening her mouth. What a mess you've made. You can see there's Auntie in the bed and Kavita reaching for that birdhouse right at the top of the stack. Auntie, is everything all right? My eyes open wide. If Mommy comes upstairs, she'll want to know why I'm in Auntie's room, and if I tell her the truth, she'll want to know why I need an old bird cage. I can't tell her that there is a dragon in my bedroom. I can't tell anyone that I'm a dragon thief. Auntie watches me with a slight smile on her face. Against her dark skin, her black eyes sparkle with amusement. I don't think she's angry with me, so I decide to plead for help. Please don't tell on me, Auntie. I'll clean everything up, I promise. We both know Mommy's standing at the foot of the stairs. Her hand is probably already on the railing, and she's wondering whether she needs to come upstairs to check on Auntie. My heart is pounding fast and hard, but I don't yet hear Mommy's slippered feet climbing up the stairs. Please, Auntie, I whisper. Auntie clears her throat and calls, I'm fine, dear. I just knocked over some boxes. Kavita's here to help me. We wait, frozen in silence, until we hear Mommy's voice floating up the stairs. Okay, Auntie, I'll be up soon with your lunch. Because she's an elder, Auntie doesn't have to do much around the house. She really only leaves her room to use the toilet and to take 2-hour baths. Auntie doesn't even come downstairs to eat with us, unless we have company over on special occasions. Mommy brings Auntie's meal up on a tray. I scan the messy room for a clock, and I find one on the nightstand next to the bed. It's a square digital clock that Vic and I gave to Auntie last Christmas. It's a giant blue display that reads 11:38. I hop to my feet and scramble to pick up all the things that I've knocked down. Auntie waves her hand at me and says, leave it, child. It makes no difference to me whether they're up against the wall or on the floor. What is it that you came to borrow? I feel so guilty, so I set the chair back on its legs and stack a couple of boxes on the seat. Then I point to the pink wire cage and I say, I came to borrow your bird cage, Auntie. Her dark eyes narrow as she squints at me. You don't have a bird. My cheeks burn again and I dig my toes into the thick green carpet. No, Auntie. After studying me for a moment, she says, do you have some other kind of pet? I nod without looking up. How much should I tell her? I put it in a box, but I stop and decide to not tell Auntie that the dragon set the cardboard box on fire. I need something stronger. Auntie leans back against her pillows and smooths the quilt with her hands. I see, and your mother doesn't know about this new pet of yours. It's not a question. I nod again and dare to glance at Auntie's face. Then you'd better take it, Auntie says with a nod at the cage on the floor. I had a songbird once, but I set it free before I left India. I only keep the cage to remind me. I pick up the cage and hold it to my chest. Remind you of what, Auntie? She sighs and closes her eyes. That every living thing wants to be free. I look down at the cage in my arms. It might be shaped like the Taj Mahal, but it is not a palace, and it's certainly not a good home for a baby dragon. My cheeks burn again, and this time tears spill from my eyes. Come here, Kavita, Auntie says. The kindness in her eyes and her voice draw me over to the bed. I sit on the edge and sniffle once or twice. Auntie hands me a tissue, and I set the cage on the floor once more so I can blow my nose. You probably want to keep your pet safe, she says softly. When I nod, Auntie asks, do you think it will be happy in this cage? I shake my head, and more tears run down my face. Oh, Auntie, I sob, throwing myself across the bed. I've messed everything up. I just wanted one for myself, and Jackson had 3. But I don't know how to take care of it, Auntie. I know it's hungry, but every time I feed it, it grows and grows. Auntie strokes my hair and makes that sound once more. But this time it's meant to soothe me, not chastise me. Every problem has a solution, she assures me. We can figure out what to do if we put our heads together. I look up from the pillow and I blink away my tears. Auntie is smiling at me, her round face framed by tiny, defiant silver curls. I put my arms around her and give her a hug. It feels good knowing I've got someone to help me care for the dragon. I couldn't ask my big brother what to do. Vic would just yell at me for stealing from his best friend. Auntie hands me another tissue from the box on her nightstand. When I've blown my nose and dried my eyes, she said, so, tell me about your new pet. I open my mouth to tell her just how marvelous the dragon is, but I stop when I hear scratching at the door. It creaks open and a tiny purple head appears. I gasp. Oh no, Mo! I jump up from the bed. How did the dragon get out of my bedroom? I put it inside the laundry hamper and made sure to close the door behind me. A knot of dread twists in my tummy. The dragon couldn't have burned a hole through the door, could it? I sniff the air, but I don't smell any smoke. Auntie grips her quilt and pulls it close to her chin. A rat, she cries. No, Auntie. It's not a rat. It's a dragon. Auntie's jaw drops and her eyes open wide. Then she fumbles for her glasses and takes a closer look. The dragon squeezes past the door and cautiously enters the room. I haven't been feeding it, yet the magical creature has grown to be almost as big as a kitten. It even mews and purrs like one. But instead of whiskers and fur, the dragon has metallic scales and triangular plates that run along the ridge of its spine. Well, Auntie says, with obvious admiration. Now I've seen everything. Even though the dragon doesn't belong to me, I still feel proud of it. But my smile vanishes when I hear the soft thud of footsteps coming up the stairs. My eyes dart to the clock. It's noon. Time for lunch. Uh-oh, I cry. Mommy's coming. Auntie points at a wicker basket on the dressing table. Quick, she says, put your friend in there. I scoop up the writhing dragon, but when I open the basket, it's crammed full of sewing stuff. Auntie sighs and throws up her hands. Been meaning to clean that out. No time now. The waste bin. Quick, empty it. I do as I'm told, and an avalanche of crumpled up tissues tumbles onto the carpet. Sit, Auntie hisses. I trap the dragon under the metal waste bin and sit on it just as Mommy pushes open the door with her back and enters the room with a tray of steaming food. I made your favorite, Auntie, Mommy says in the high, sing-songy voice she uses only when she's trying to hide the fact that she's annoyed. I hope it's to your liking. Auntie smiles up at Mommy, but then looks at the tray of food and wrinkles her nose. She sniffs the fragrant steam rising from the plate and says, too much cumin. Mommy presses her lips together but doesn't say a word. I can tell she wants to say something, but Auntie is an elder and must be shown respect. Once I heard Mommy and Papa arguing about Auntie. She belongs in a nursing home, Mommy had said. She belongs here, in our home, Papa replied. She's not family, Adiv. Auntie's more than family, Papa had insisted. She's looked after me since the day I was born. And you've cared after her all these years. You brought her to America. You don't owe her anything more. I owe her everything, Mira. She's staying, and that's final. Papa almost never raises his voice, so it was strange to hear him getting so upset. I never heard my parents arguing about Auntie after that. Papa is the one who wants Auntie to live with us, but Mommy's the one who looks after her. Suddenly I feel the metal waistband growing warm beneath me. The dragon must be trying to burn its way out. I squirm as the bin grows hotter and cough a few times to cover the squeals of displeasure coming from the dragon. Mommy stares at me for a moment. I hope you're not bothering Auntie, Kavita. I frown and shake my head. Why does everyone think I'm such a pest? Kavita is keeping me company, Auntie says, drawing away Mommy's attention. It isn't good to eat alone, bad for the digestion. You always make such a lot of food. Auntie pushes the basmati rice around with her fork. Maybe Kavita can help me eat it all, she says doubtfully. I smile and nod at Mommy, but she knows that there's no way I can eat any of the food on that plate. Auntie likes a lot of chili pepper in her food, so much that Mommy has to cook it in separate pots. I think the dragon wants to taste Auntie's super spicy food because it starts to whine. I start coughing again to conceal the sound. Mommy frowns and comes over to press her palm against my forehead. Are you coming down with a cold? She just needs some tea with plenty of honey and cayenne. Why don't you go back downstairs and put on the kettle, dear? Mommy's lips twist a bit before finally turning up into a small, tight smile. I guess I'd better. I open my mouth to object, but Mommy holds up her hand to silence me. Auntie's right. Better to treat your cough now before it develops into a full-blown cold. Why don't you put your pajamas on and climb back into bed? Mommy has a way of saying things that lets me know that she's giving an order, not making a suggestion. I know that I should head back to my room, but if I stand up, the dragon may escape from the waste bin. Auntie saves me by saying, I'll keep Kavita with me, dear. She can suck on a lozenge for now. I know I've got some around here somewhere. Mommy casts a disdainful glance around the messy bedroom. She smothers a sigh and says to me, Don't talk Auntie's ear off while she's eating, Kavita, and please bring the tray down once she's finished lunch. You can drink your tea in the kitchen. Yes, Mommy, I say, from my perch on the uncomfortably warm waste bin. As soon as we hear my mother going down the creaky stairs, I jump up and lift the bin off the floor. Mo immediately runs to the bed and uses sharp talons to climb up the quilt. Close the door, Auntie says. I do as I'm told. Then I lean back against the door and watch as the dragon scampers around the bed, chasing the colorful stripes of fabric sewn onto the quilt. Come here, child, Auntie says, waving me near. I swallow hard and I walk over to the bed. Mo scrambles up Auntie's long braid and snuggles against the soft, wrinkly skin of her neck. You're a long way from home, aren't you? Auntie says softly. I am too. She strokes the dragon's belly and then looks over at me. Well, child, you'd better tell me everything. Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is from Jackson's point of view. Ma won't wake up, and it's all my fault. I had one job, and I blew it. And I'm probably the worst witch's apprentice ever. But Ma gave me a second chance. We left the realm of magic and came back to Brooklyn to find what I'd left behind. A baby dragon. But since we've been back, Ma just hasn't been her usual self. I mean, I've only known her for about a week. At first I thought she was my grandmother, but she's not. Ma's a witch. She can be kind of cranky, but deep down, Ma's not so bad. In fact, she's pretty cool for an old lady. I was looking forward to learning more about witchy stuff, but that can't happen if Ma won't wake up. My grandfather knows about magic too, but he's not here right now. Ma and I left him in the other realm with Sis and Elroy. Mama agreed that we could move in with Ma until our landlord fixes our apartment, but he's the worst landlord ever. So Mama's over there a lot of time, making sure that he does everything that the judge ordered him to. That leaves me alone with Ma in her strange apartment. At first, she just napped a lot. I'd sit in the chair beside her bed and try to make sense of the strange words that she muttered in her sleep. But her naps got longer and longer until finally Ma just stopped getting out of bed. Now she doesn't eat or go to the bathroom. She only woke up once when she heard us talking about what to do. Mama's friend, Afua, came over to check on Ma. She's a visiting nurse, and after examining Ma, Afua said her vital signs were good. It could just be extreme fatigue, Afua said. Has she been under a lot of stress lately? Mama looked at me, and I looked at the floor. Ma was looking forward to retirement, but she had one last job to complete. I said that I'd help her, but then everything went wrong. Now it's up to me to make things right. I asked Afua what we should do if Ma didn't wake up. Well, I guess you'll need to call an ambulance and take her to the hospital. All of a sudden, Ma sat up and barked, "No doctors!" before collapsing again against her pillows. A few seconds later, she was snoring soundly. And that's how Ma's been for the last couple of days. I'm on spring break, so I can stay with Ma while Mama's at work. There's not much to do in this apartment. Ma doesn't own a TV, so I spend my days flipping through the many books on Ma's living room. There's a whole wall covered in bookshelves, but so far I haven't found anything about how to break a sleeping spell. I never used to believe in those fairy tales, but right now, a spell is the only thing I can think of. Why else won't Ma wake up? I kissed Ma's cheek to see if that might work, but I'm no Prince Charming, and Ma's no Sleeping Beauty. Whenever I have a problem, I call my friend Vic. It's his little sister Kavita who stole one of the 3 dragons I was supposed to deliver. So I called Vic as soon as Ma and I got back from the realm of magic, but Mrs. Patel told me he'd gone to New Jersey with his father to visit relatives. I sure do miss my own dad when stuff like this happens. I just met my granddad a week ago, but he's not here either. In fairy tales, the hero always has loyal companions who help him complete his quest. Right now it feels like everyone's abandoned me, but I don't have time for a pity party. I've got to come up with a plan. Ma may not need to eat, but I do. When my stomach starts to growl, I go into the kitchen and look inside the empty fridge. Mama said that she'd stop at the store on her way home from work. There's 1 bottle of root beer left, but I decide to save it for Ma. She'll be thirsty when she wakes up. Suddenly, I hear a strange clicking sound. It's louder and faster until I realize that something is scratching at the window. I hurry over and raise the paper blind. It's you! You've come back! As soon as I open the window, the gray squirrel squeezes into the kitchen and scurries across the floor. Wait, where are you going? I call after her, but it's too late. I rush out of the kitchen and down the hallway in time to see a flash of her bushy tail disappearing into Ma's bedroom. Oh no, if Mama comes home and sees that I've let a rodent into the house, I'll be in trouble. But then I remember that Ma was pretty upset the last time the squirrel stopped by. Maybe another unexpected visit will wake her up. When I reach Ma's room, the squirrel is nowhere to be seen. Then I hear a soft thud and notice that Ma's purse has fallen to the floor. I pick it up and I find the squirrel underneath, sifting through the contents that have spilled onto the gold-colored shag carpet. The squirrel chatters at me, but I can't understand what she's saying. The only item she doesn't toss aside is the red mint tin that once housed the baby dragons. That was before Kavita fed them. Once she gave them sweet pata to eat, the dragons started to grow, and I had to put them in the sandwich bag instead. There's nothing in there, I assured the squirrel. The dragons are gone. The squirrel cocks her head, pressing her ear against the tin. Then she holds it out to me and taps the lid with her curved claw. You can see right there. I'm about to tell her that it's empty when I remember it's not. Before we left the realm of magic, Sis gave Ma a gift, a helper, a brilliant red butterfly. Ma put the butterfly in the tin after the bumpy ride back to Brooklyn in the transporter. I sure could use some help right now. I take the tin from the squirrel. It feels light, but then butterflies don't weigh very much. The squirrel nods at me and clasps her tiny paws together, waiting for me to release the butterfly. But no matter how hard I try, I can't pry off the lid. Maybe she sealed it with a spell, I say. The squirrel seems to disagree. She shrieks and scampers out of Ma's room. I follow her and find the squirrel scratching her claws against the front door. Do you want out? I ask her. She shakes her head and points at me. You want me to go outside? The squirrel nods and then races past me down the dark hallway and back into the kitchen. By the time I catch up with her, she's squeezed through the window and is once more on the fire escape. She points at me one last time and then scampers onto the branch of a nearby tree and disappears. I look at the mint tin in my palm. I was wrong. Not everybody has abandoned me. Ambrose will know what to do. Chapter 3. Kavita. I tell Auntie all about the day that Vic took me to meet his friend at the park, finishing my story with a declaration. I am not a thief, Auntie. Honest, I didn't want to take the dragon from Jackson's purse. I mean, I knew it was wrong, but I had to. When tears start rolling down my face, Auntie rubs my back and hands me another tissue from the box on her nightstand. Mo stays on Auntie's lap, but dips its head to flick its pink tongue across my hand. I smile at the sweet little dragon. I blow my nose and I add, I only took Mo because Vikram said that it thought that I was its mother. I just felt like Mo needed me. Auntie smiles as if she understands. Mo is its name? I shrug. That's just what I've been calling it because it's mauve. Auntie studies the dragon for a minute. There's a wonder and admiration in her eyes. I never had any children, she says softly, but I remember how it feels to be needed. No one needs me anymore. I frown. That's not true. We need you, Auntie. She shakes her silver head. You love me. That's different. I know that I'm a useless old woman. Why do you think I stay in this room? I can't walk without the contraption. Auntie nods at the metal walker in the corner of the room, and it would just make a nuisance of myself. It's been a long time since anyone depended on me. The dragon snuggles closer to Auntie, and she strokes its head, a smile returning to her face. You're not useless, I say quietly. You're helping me right now. I pause to ask, you won't tell Mommy what I've done, will you? Auntie shakes her head and winks at me. I think we'd better find a way to solve this problem on our own. I wipe my tears away and nod at Auntie. We have to give Mo back, don't we? Auntie sighs and studies the dragon for a moment. Well, she says thoughtfully, that boy you took Mo from seems like he could use some help. Perhaps you and I can find another way to ensure that this creature finds its way home. When you lose your home, you lose a part of yourself. I reach out my hand and rub my fingertip over Mo's silken scales. The dragon likes you, Auntie. Do you really think that Mo is homesick? Not now, perhaps, but in time this creature will grow. It will look around and wonder where all of the other dragons are. It will yearn for a place where it feels like it can truly feel at home. It will wonder what it feels like to belong. My cheeks warm and I cast a shy glance at Auntie. This is the first time we've spent so much time together. Papa always said that Auntie used to tell the best stories when he was a child. Maybe Auntie will tell me one of her wonderful stories today. For a little while we sit in silence with the dragon purring happily between us. Finally Auntie says, I wonder. She speaks so softly that I lean in to hear more clearly. You wonder what, Auntie? After another long pause, Auntie looks at me and asks, do you know where I'm from, Kavita? That's a strange question. Auntie wouldn't play a trick on me, so I give the most obvious answer. Sure, our family's from India, Auntie. She nods, but her eyes leave mine and roam across the colorful quilt. You were born here in America. I was born and raised in the Karnataka forest. I don't mean to, but I frown. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a forest in any of Mommy and Daddy's albums. They both grew up in Mumbai, which is a big, bustling city. Auntie sees the confusion in my face and smiles. Haven't you ever wondered why my skin is darker than yours? Or why your hair is straight, but mine is curly? People from India don't all look the same, I insist. Mommy's big sister out in Queens has skin that's much lighter than mine. Mommy says that Manju Masi puts bleaching cream on her face and hands at night. That's why the skin on the other parts of her body is so much browner. My skin is dark too, I tell Auntie. I place my hand on top of hers and she stares at it for a moment. We're almost the same shade brown, but Auntie's wrinkly skin is a little bit darker than mine. I reach up and tug at one of the tightly coiled curls that frame her face. I wish I had curly hair. Straight hair is boring. Auntie laughs. When I was your age, I wished that I had straight hair. I wanted to look like all the other girls at school with their sleek, tight braids swinging back and forth as they walked. At home in the forest, I stood it as well. My hair was curly, but not curly enough. Auntie sighs. I never found a place where I fit in. Mommy says you can lose yourself if you tried too hard to fit in. Auntie snorts. Easier for her to say. She didn't grow up in America's melting pot. Do you want to fit in? I shrug. Sometimes I want to be like the other kids at school, but mostly I just want to be myself. I like to read and I'm into dinosaurs. I think Mommy wishes I was more like my cousins. They play with dolls, but I'd rather play with Vikram's microscope. Auntie nods in a way that tells me that she approves. I wonder why I never talked to Auntie like this before. She's a good listener. Perhaps one day you'll become a paleontologist, she says. Your great-grandfather was an etymologist, a scientist who studies insects. Did you know that? I shake my head. What kind of bugs did he study? Ants. That's what brought him to the forest, and that's where he met my mother. You're right, Kavita. Our family is from India. We're Gujarati and Hindi, but I'm also Siddhi. Siddhi? I thought you grew up in the forest. S-I-D-D-I, city. In many ways, we were the same as those who lived in the villages and towns outside the forest. We spoke the same languages and wore the same types of clothes, but we were different, too. Our roots were elsewhere, in Africa. My eyes open wide. Africa? Are you sure, Auntie? I never heard of people from Africa living in India. Hundreds of years ago, Portuguese traders crossed the Indian Ocean. They sailed to the continent of Africa looking for things to buy and sell. From Zanzibar, they brought spices like cloves and carried them back to India. They also took people as slaves. Now my mouth and eyes open wide. You mean African people were bought and sold in India? I thought that only happened here in America. Auntie gives a grim nod. Thousands of my people were taken across the ocean. Some call us Habshi, but we were much more than slaves. Some of us were soldiers, fighting in the armies of powerful rulers and serving as their bodyguards. Some cities married into royal families, and some ruled in their own right. Still others had special skills. Like what? Well, Yukat was a city woman known for his a city known for his ability to train horses. The Sultana made Yukat the master of the royal stable, and legend says that he trained other creatures too. Elephants? I ask. Auntie shakes her head and nods in the direction of the birdcage. Dragons. Mo perks up at the mention of the dragon trainer. Auntie rubs her fingertip under the little lizard's chin, and Mo's eyes close. Those were the stories that Nanim used to tell me when we pieced together a quilt like this, made from scraps and rags and old saris I used to bring home. When I was your age, I worked in the fields with my grandmother. My mother walked 10 miles to reach the nearest town. There she had a job cleaning and cooking for a wealthy family. Your family. Your great-grandfather used to walk by home sometimes. Naniam would insist that he stay for dinner, even though we didn't have much to eat. Sometimes we caught small fish in the river. Sometimes we ate ants. Ants? Auntie laughs. Your great-grandfather thought that they were quite a delicacy, but for us they were a source of protein. Ba was a wonderful cook. She served the ants on banana leaves with a pepper chutney and rice. And for dessert, we had fresh honeycomb. That's what I miss most. Auntie closes her eyes and smiles at the memory. The pink tip of her tongue slides across her lips as if there were still honey left to taste. And even though there was barely enough to go around, Naniam always made us save some for the dragons of the forest. They like sweet things, you see. They sure do, I say, thinking of the way the 3 dragons devoured my peta. Auntie sighs and removes her glasses so she can wipe her eyes. Then she puts her glasses back on and gently shakes Mo. The little dragon stirs and looks at us expectantly. Enough reminiscing, Auntie says. We'd better get going. Where? I ask. Mo dashes back and forth on the bed, eager to embark on a new adventure. I grab hold of the dragon and stroke it to calm it down. Auntie flings back the quilt and swings her legs over the edge of the suit. As usual, she's wearing her lima bean green sweatsuit. Auntie's never warm enough. We bought her a heavy flannel nightgown and a pair of flannel pajamas, but she prefers her sweatpants. Auntie kicks aside the slippers resting next to her bed and points at a pair of leather sneakers in the closet. Bring me my shoes. Where are we going? I ask again, stressing the we this time. Auntie stands up and forces her feet into the worn running shoes. Queens, she says, before pushing past me to reach a dresser in the corner of her room. I watch as she opens the top drawer and takes out a sari. Put your little friend in its cage. Mo won't like it, but it will have to do for now. We'll cover the cage with a shawl, and that should soothe its nerves. My pet bird used to go to sleep when I covered its cage, thinking it was nighttime. I do as I am told, and to my surprise, the dragon enters the cage willingly. There's a folded pashmina shawl hanging from Auntie's walker. I drape it over the cage, and after a moment or two, Mo grows still. What's in Queens? I ask Auntie. If we're going to send your little friend home, we'll need to consult an expert. My eyes open wide. You know a dragon expert? Auntie groans a bit as she wraps her sari around her body. I rush over to give her a hand. Thank you, child, she says, lifting the gold-bordered fabric over her shoulder. We don't need a dragon expert, Auntie tells me. We need someone who can find a way to move between realms. What we need, she says, taking up her purse, is the very best astrologer. And Bejan is the best of the best. How will we get past Mommy, I ask anxiously. I have a plan, Auntie says, looking inside her purse and then winking at me. She has a mischievous smile. Take this tray downstairs and bring up the cordless telephone. Then take Mo downstairs and leave the cage by the front door. Can you do that? Yes, Auntie, I say, as I pick up the untouched tray of food. When I get downstairs, Mommy is tucking in her cell phone. She's trying to be quiet, but I can tell that she's complaining about Auntie. When Mommy hears me set the tray down the counter, she glances up at the uneaten food and grabs a hold of her hair as if she's about to rip it out. I scan the kitchen and I find the cordless phone on its base for once. When Mommy turns her back to me, I grab the phone and I run back upstairs. Auntie is waiting for me. She holds out her hand and I pass her the phone before carrying Mo downstairs in the covered cage. I put my coat on and I set the cage near the front door. Then I run upstairs once more. Auntie is standing on the landing. You need your walker, I remind her. Auntie shakes her head and jogs for a few seconds. I don't need it anymore. Your little friend has given me a burst of energy. I feel like a girl again. I smile. Maybe some of Mo's magic has rubbed off on Auntie. Ready? She asks. Ready, I replied. Auntie takes a red flip phone out of her purse and presses a single button. She must be calling someone on speed dial. Seconds later, the cordless phone rings. Auntie tosses it through the open door of my parents' room. The cordless phone bounces on the floor a couple times before disappearing under the bed. Auntie pulls me inside her own bedroom and closes the door. Kavita! Kavita, please answer the phone, Mommy calls from downstairs. Kavita? Auntie holds a finger up to her lips so I don't reply. Soon we hear Mommy's feet pounding up the steps as she hurries upstairs. She's still got her cell phone pressed to her ear. As soon as Mommy enters her room, Auntie ends the call and presses another button on her phone. She must be calling Mommy's cell phone because I hear her say, Just a moment, Sonia, I've got another call. Auntie hangs up and calls the cordless phone once more. I can see the picture. Kavita and the cage. There's Auntie. There's her mom. Mommy gives an exasperated groan and drops to her knees to search for the ringing phone. Auntie gives me a gentle push and hisses, Now, go, go, go. I dash downstairs and I open the front door. I pick up the cage and I look over my shoulder to find Auntie running down the stairs. I've never seen her move so fast. We're down the front steps and onto the sidewalk before Mommy realizes what's going on. Auntie whistles and a green taxi pulls up to the curb. Quickly, get in, Auntie says before squeezing in next to me. She pulls the door shut and tells the driver to take us back to Queens. I turn my head and I look out the back window. Mommy is standing on the street, a phone in each of her hands. The look on her face makes my stomach do a quick flip. I'll make it up to you, Mommy, I whisper as I turn back around. I remember to fasten my seatbelt and I help Auntie fasten hers too. When we both lean back and let out a sigh of relief. The driver asks for an address and Auntie pulls a folded flyer out of her purse. While she's reading the address out to him, I get a glimpse of a red hand. Lines, symbols, and words have been drawn into the palm. Results guaranteed is printed down below a smiling man's brown face. Is that your friend, I ask? Auntie nods. I haven't seen Bejan in many years. We don't have an appointment, but I'm sure he'll see us. There's a phone number printed on the flyer. Maybe we should call him, I suggest. No need, Auntie says with a bright laugh. I see the driver's eyes watching us in the rearview mirror. Bejan's a psychic, Auntie explains. He knows we're on our way. And that's the end of the third chapter. We will pick up tomorrow with chapter 4, where we head back to Jackson's point of view. Once again, we're reading The Dragon Thief, the sequel to Dragons in a Bag, written by Zetta Elliott, illustrated by Geneva B, and published by Penguin Random House. My name is Sarah Mari. I'm one of the librarians at Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine, and I hope to see you tomorrow for more. Bye!